Hello, it's Deborah from Attic Lane, and welcome to this fourth and final part where we explore inspiration, where you can get inspiration and how you can develop that into projects. I've suggested that if you take the word inspired and switch it for the word interested, and then you think about the things that you are interested in, that can act as a launch pad for your own projects. And in each of the previous 3 videos, what I've tried to do is show you a way that you can take the things that you're interested in and develop them into different projects each time. So we've looked at tags and cards, and now we're going to look at a pamphlet. So this has grown out of my interest in Sherlock Holmes books, the books by Arthur Conan Doyle, and as in the previous videos, I created a sheet for myself, a background sheet using words associated with Sherlock Holmes. So I've taken a Word document and I've typed in lots of different words such as London, urchins, Mycroft, mystery, hidden treasure, Arthur Conan Doyle, detective, and I've put these words into a sheet of, I've printed them onto a sheet of paper. I've changed the font. I've made the font grey because grey works brilliantly with any other colour that you might want to use. And then I've added some individual words that I can use to make phrases or add sentiments to my projects, and I've put these into a slightly larger, bolder and darker font. So this is where I've started from. This is one of 4 sheets that will be available in my Etsy shop if you want to use these to make your own projects similar to what I've already shown you. But of course the point of this is that if your interest is in astronomy or baking or cats, or if there's a particular songwriter you like, or maybe lyrics, anything like that, you can print your own words and make it personal to you. For this project, I've used the paper background to create a cover for a little pamphlet. Let me just tell you about the pamphlet, because I'm going to show you how to make the cover itself, and the inside of the book is pretty straightforward. I've taken tea-dyed papers, which I've ripped using the side of a ruler, so I get these nice jagged edges. I've punched 2 holes in the centre, and I've taken 2 pieces of twine, there's 2 pieces there, and I've threaded them through the holes, and on the outside I've tied a knot and a bow, and that holds all of my papers together. And then I've taken some of the darker words from the bottom of my sheet, some of the words here, and I've added them to the top right of my project, and I've put a stamp on the front which I think is a little bit Victorian, because it wasn't until after I'd printed my words out that I realised I've got no stamps that suggest Sherlock Holmes. So then I had to improvise a little bit, but that's okay. I've got myself out of the hole. But the problem is, this particular stamp is by a company called Waltzing Mouse Stamps, and they don't exist anymore. So this is a very old stamp. I very much doubt it's available unless it's around on eBay, and I don't know the name of it. So I can't offer you a link, but I can offer you an alternative. Now, in all of the videos, I haven't been too prescriptive about the dyes or the stamps or the inks or anything that I've used, because I'm hoping that with you exploring the things that you're interested in, maybe you will have those stamps in your collection, or maybe you'll have those dyes in your collection because it's something you're interested in. If it's cats, for example, if you really like cats, then maybe you've got stamps of cats. It makes sense, doesn't it? So I'm hoping that I can give you some ideas for how you can use any background papers that you decide to create for yourself, or if you download mine from Etsy, I've tried to show you different ways that you can use them. So in previous videos we've done cards, we've done tags, and now we're going to do this little pamphlet. This is where I started from, with my plain piece of paper cut from my words. I want to show you that you can change the colour of this paper, and I want to show you what I mean about grey being easily adaptable to any colour you might want to use. I've got some Distress Oxide here, this is antique linen, and I've got a foam dabber, and I'm going to apply this to my card to take away that white colour. The other thing I wanted to show you with this is that your printed sheet will hold the ink. So in other words, the Distress Oxide ink won't interfere with your printed words and smudge them or anything. They remain absolutely fine. I'm not going to try and achieve an even finish with my antique linen inking. I just want to take away the white, because by the time we add the other elements, including the words, you won't notice if it's even or not. The other thing is, if it's mottled, I think it will make it look a little bit more aged. Now that that is coloured, I'm going to take Vintage Photo. This is again Distress Oxide ink, and I'm going to go around the outside edge. This time I'm using a foam dabber. This is an oral swab, and I will provide a link to where you can find these below the video, because every time I use them I'm asked about them. I'm going all around the outside edge, and then in the corners I'm adding a little bit more ink. And to make sure that I don't add too much ink in a big splat, when I first put it in there I knock it off onto my scrap of paper, and that way I know I can control the intensity of the colour as soon as it hits my printed page. And I'm going to keep the Vintage Photo ink available because we will use that again in a moment. So there is the cover, the very basic cover of my little pamphlet, and I especially like these bits here on that side fold, because it looks, when you see that dark colouring on that fold, it does look quite aged. If you wanted, you could age this more. You could rough up the sides a little bit as well. I'm not going to do that for our purposes today. What I am going to do is show you my alternative for my stamp. Of course, you might have stamps that are really suitable for this sort of thing. You might have some steampunk stamps that would go really well on these words. I don't tend to have stamps like that, so I had to dig a bit deeper, and I found my Tim Holtz Ideology paper dolls. I must admit, these spook me a little bit, so I have them, but I haven't used them a huge amount. But I did find one that looks very, very appropriate for my Sherlock Holmes pamphlet. So here's this guy, and he is going to go on here. Now his hand is randomly patting something, I guess, maybe a small child or something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position him about here, and I'm going to stick him down, and I'm going to cut off the bits that hang out over the edge. My paper doll is stuck down, and I think he looks quite Holmesian. So now I want to add some other words to the front of this. So I'm going to go back to the bottom of my sheet. So I think for this guy, let's add famous detective. The words are spaced out in such a way that you can easily cut between them to create any phrase using any of the words from the sheet. So that's too long to fit there, but because I've got space between the words, I can cut between them. To make sure that these words fit nicely with the rest of my pamphlet front cover, I'm going to use Vintage Photo to colour them in. And the reason I wanted to show you this is to show you that you can add quite a dark colour to the words, but because they're in a bold black, they can take it. I'm going to emphasise the colour by going around the outside and adding an extra little line. It'll really make the words pop. So that's the first one there. I think, can you see the difference? So detective doesn't pop nearly as much as the word famous, but once we add the ink around the outside edge, it will. So I quite like that, but I would like something else to go down here. So I think I will select some of the short words. I'm going to go with London 221B, so that there's a hint of Sherlock Holmes' address. I'm going to cut these down, and I'm going to ink around them in exactly the same way that I have with these ones. Here's our finished project, the cover for our little pamphlet. I haven't put anything on the inside because I want to show you how to make the cover, and I think that's aged really beautifully. And if I compare it with the original, I think I prefer this one. I'm going to say thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching. I hope that you found this little series useful. I've tried to show you lots of different techniques as well as lots of finished projects to give you ideas for what you can do with the things that interest you. I hope you found that useful, and until we meet again, take care.